This video is sponsored by Razer and this is made with Blade. You might have heard of Razer before. They're mostly known for their gaming products, but they sent me this race car of a laptop loaded with studio capabilities for me to create my animation, the Gatekeeper. The characters were made using our face scans inside Character Creator's new plugin, Headshot 2. I have a separate video about this if you're interested in turning yourself into an animated character. The characters were animated using Rococo Smart Suite Pro 2. Facial animations were made inside iClone 8 using the Motion Live plugin. In the animation there are forests and armies, which are very intensive tasks. However, the new Razer Blade 16 handled these scenes with ease. But first we have to set up our blender correctly. If you have an Nvidia graphics card, we have to adjust a few settings. This Razer Blade 16 comes with GeForce RTX 4080 Nvidia graphics card, which has special benefits for Blender specifically, having both hardware and software boost for studio tasks. Just go into your GeForce Experience app, Drivers, switch your driver to Studio here, and check for updates. These drivers are constantly updated by Nvidia. To see these benefits inside Blender, go into Cycles, turn on GPU Compute. Go into Edit, Preferences, System, choose Optics and choose your Nvidia graphics card here. And under the sampling settings, turn on denoise and choose Optics here. Same thing in render, choose denoise and optics. So you can get optics accelerated denoise in Blender. Now let's create the army. In the animation, I took this guy inside Human Anatomy Pack inside Character Creator 4. Threw some skin effects on him. Drag and drop running animations. Yes, you can drag and drop animations inside Character Creator and iClone. Vary up his looks. Bring them into Blender. In Blender, I used two separate techniques. One, using geometry nodes. You can watch the full step-by-step node setup on the dedicated tutorial on my channel. And the second one is using procedural crowds add-on. With this add-on, I can draw a curve, and this becomes a path for the zombies to run on. Lighting is incredibly important. Doesn't matter how high quality your assets are, your textures are, if you light them bad, they're gonna look bad. That's why learning about lighting is incredibly important. Also, being able to iterate your lighting is incredibly important as well. Testing out different HDRIs and lighting setups to create different moods and feelings could help you decide your final look. This is where the accelerated viewport performance of the Nvidia Studio comes in. I can quickly see my scenes in the viewport and decide on my final look. For the final render, I always turn on motion blur. It always makes the movements more realistic and cinematic. Also, it might help hide our inconsistencies or imperfections. Motion blur comes at a cost of longer rendering times. Luckily, Nvidia RTX graphics cards comes with hardware accelerated motion blur, allowing the GPUs to significantly speed up motion blur during rendering. I almost always throw on Haze. It ties everything together in the scene, makes the objects in the distance actually look like they're in the distance. I use a volume scatter and isotropy set to 0.8 or so to create the fog. You can also make clouds using volumetrics. Here's how I created the clouds in this scene. Into the density of the volume scatter, I plugged in a math node set to multiply, color ramp, and a noise texture. Texture coordinates set to object. Then I used a gradient node to make the edges transparent so the clouds don't just look like a box. I also made a separate video about this gradient node if you're interested in setting it up for yourself. After rendering is done, it's always essential to color grade it. I would never suggest publishing your renders directly from Blender without any adjustments. Even minor color grading can significantly enhance the final result. Color grading is a subject that could take a whole semester to teach. It's a very deep topic. But here are a few quick suggestions on how you can improve the look of your renders. In any editor you might be using, give it a little contrast. Turn up the saturation, then throw on a LUT with a low intensity. Some specific things I use are Film Convert Nitrate with low opacity and Red Giant's Optical Glow, amount set to 1 or 2, and a touch of Sharpen. And our render goes from this to this, with only these adjustments. I would always dub my color grading. never knowing how it will look like on my phone versus what I'm seeing on my screen. I would use my phone as a secondary display, try to color correct on its small screen. The new Razer Blade 16 has a large, gorgeous display for consuming content. And for content creation, the colors of the screen can be calibrated to your taste through color management of Windows and Intel Graphics Command Center. I adjusted the colors and the saturation. Now I can finally see what I'm doing with accurate colors on a large screen. Also, something I found interesting is that the screen is mini LED with dual mode display. Dual mode meaning you can switch between a full HD 240Hz display and an Ultra HD display with 120Hz display. And when you turn on HDR, it gets incredibly bright. Thank you so much, Razer, for sponsoring this video. This machine will no doubt improve the quality and speed of my works immensely. So thank you so much. Only downside of this computer is I really want to game on the 240Hz display. It's quite tempting. What computer I use is one of the most frequent questions I get, and now I can finally say I use the new Razer Blade 16. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something from it. I hope to see you in the next one, and take care of yourself till then.